The Drug Alternative Program presents Drugs Close to Home, your weekly insight into the ongoing stories of struggle, victory, and the spiritual renewal of rehabilitation. Each week, Cliff and Freddie Harris would like to introduce you to the many people who have touched their lives through their spirit-filled ministry. But most of all, they would like to share with you the blessings they continue to receive from Jesus Christ. And now, your hosts of Drugs Close to Home, Cliff and Freddie Harris.
Freddie, are you excited about our first program?
I am excited.
And we hope that you are excited because we'll be bringing you these programs each week into your home.
You know, Cliff and I are co-founders of Drug Alternative Program. This is a 12 to 18-month residential program for men addicted to drugs right here in Grand Terrace, California. And you know, we have had so many success stories, so many people to cross our lives. We just said we cannot keep these blessings to ourselves.
Just a minute, Freddie. Do you know what? We are excited about that because we want to let you know what God has done for us in our lives. And you know, during these series of programs that we're going to be doing, we're going to let you know that what he's done for us in our life, he will do for you in your life. You know, I was raised in a Christian home. My father always woke us all up in the household. Before he went to work, we would have family worship together. He always took us to church. We would have family worship in the evenings. But, you know, as a child, I didn't have a dysfunctional family. But I know one thing, I had low self-esteem. They always called me the ugly boy. And you know, I used to wonder if I was adopted, you know, because all my other brothers and sisters looked a little different from me.
Right, you're the only one that's dark with kinky hair. Everyone else is light complected and straight hair.
And so I remember asking my mother one time, was I adopted? And she was like, oh boy, what's the matter with you, you know. But that stayed with me, and so that had an effect upon my life in some sense.
Right. Now, what about your marriage?
Well, I always wanted to be like my father, where my mother, she never did work. You know, my father always took care of the whole family situation, and I wanted to be just like my father. I didn't want my wife to work, and I didn't want her to do all this. I would be the totally one that would take care of everything.
The breadwinner.
The breadwinner. I was the breadwinner of the family, but it didn't work out that way too well. And so I lost that. Well, I didn't get married until I was 21. And when I got married, I didn't start using drugs until I was had 3 children, and that's when I started using marijuana. And I can remember when the guys first introduced that marijuana to me, I got upset with them. But from wanting to be one of the fellas, I started smoking the marijuana with them. I wanted to be part of what they were doing. And from marijuana, I went into doing heroin. You know, for me to stick a needle in my arm, you know, right now I've got 2 marks on this arm and 2 on this arm. And those marks will be there the rest of my life. And, you know, I had gotten so bad till I was spending as much as $150 a day on heroin.
I remember you told me one night you spent $800.
And, you know, actually, that's a small amount. Because I've known people to spend $2,000 on heroin. But, and when you start doing those things, you start going down. You lose your values that you've been raised with. You know, when you really think about me, can you look at me right now, Freddie? I look pretty good.
You're a pretty handsome guy.
Yeah, thank you, Freddie. But at one time, I had hair on my head like this, a mustache like this. I would not change my clothes. I would keep them on for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. Don't even take a bath. Don't even take the clothes off because I'm so down in the gutter. And that's where Satan takes us. Satan will take us down into the gutter that I thought I would never go. But that's where I went.
Well, what about your jail life and your prison life?
Well, I've been in the Colorado State Penitentiary twice. I've been to jail in California, Ohio, Florida, Texas. I can't remember the rest. But there's some more. New York. I've been to all those places in jail. As far as my children go, I stole from my children, stole from my wife. You know, and when you're doing these things, you say that you love your children, but you don't love them. Because, you know, my ex-wife used to say to me, if you loved me, you wouldn't hurt me. And you know, that's true. God says the same thing to us. If you love me, you would obey me.
I remember you telling me the 17th Street episode. Share that with the audience.
Well, one day I was looking for drugs all day long. I'd been going down on 5 Points, standing on the corner waiting for the drug dealers to come, or going to this house or that house, and I couldn't cop. And
cop, what does that mean?
Cop means to get your drugs,
Okay.
you know, to buy them, or
Right.
you know, someone to give them to you. But I ended up around about 5 or 6 o'clock in that evening. Finally, I had gotten some drugs, and I was flying down 17th Street. I'll never forget this. On my way home to get down with my drugs. Well, I ended up, and I thought about this. I was flying, and I thought, here you are, Clifford, putting all this energy into obtaining this drug. Now, if you could turn that energy around for the positive, what a force I would be. And I thought about that very seriously that day. But I still went home and got down anyway. I still used my drugs. And I thought about if I could help someone not go through life what I was going through. Because my life was, at that point, was in turmoil.
Now, you know, you have 3 children. Now, all of your 20 years of drugs, what has been their experience?
My experience with my children, their experience has been...
have they ever used drugs?
No, none of my children have ever used drugs. Yes, that's a miracle. But I remember my daughter telling me this. She told me we were in the hospital, and her daughter was going through an operation. And we were sitting in the cafeteria at the hospital, and my daughter said to me, Daddy, I want you to go head on with your life. You move on with your life, because, you know, she didn't say it, but she meant was that I had disappointed her so much in her life that she wanted me to move on. And you know one thing I said to her, Freddie? I didn't give her any indication of saying or comment on to her what I was going to do. I just not going to do anything special. I was just going to be a father and do what I needed to do in my life. And I kept doing it.
And you know what? It's amazing, but all 3 of your children love you today.
Yes, yes. And you know one thing, what ended up was, she always would, Daddy, are you coming over to get the kids? You want the kids to come down and get them? And you know, now my grandkids, they call me Grandpa, when you gonna call, when you coming to see me, that kind of thing. So that's been the part that I treasure the most in my life.
It's a miracle.
Yes.
Because to have been on drugs for 20 years and not one of your children addicted, it's a miracle.
Yes, it's a miracle.
And you know, one thing I remember you telling me, honey, is that since you have been clean and sober, you have had not one temptation to use drugs again. You know, so many people, I've heard stories of pastors saying, you know, I still have that temptation sometimes. I still have that taste in my mouth. And now you even have very few dreams. And, you know, and I always say the Lord did that for you because He gave you this ministry, drug alternative program, and He did not want that to be a temptation to you.
But you know, there's one story on the next part of the program that I want to share with the audience. I want to share this story with you, and we'll be right back with that. Okay, Freddie?
Okay.
How about us doing that?
Good.